It's the end of October. I'm in Fukui-ken visiting my friend Harumi Horikawa. She's been practicing the tea ceremony for many years. We're in the tea room here, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the display in the front of the room. So, how are you today?
Fine, thank you.
You were telling me that each season you change the things that are on display here. So when the people, the guests come, they can look at them and think about them. So can you tell us about the scroll here?
It was written by the high priest of Zen temple in Tokyo. It says this word came from Dogen, who is the founder of Eiheiji Temple, and it says fishing the moon and cultivating the cloud. It's very Zen, and you can interpret it in many ways, but one of the interpretation is that fishing the moon and cultivating the cloud means the spirit of the enlightened people. So you are not bothered by many daily things. So I love this phrase. So sometimes I use this scroll, but especially it is the season of viewing the moon. So I picked up the scroll for today's main theme. And next comes the flower. They are all from my garden. And also it is the end of October, the beginning of November. So they are not so gorgeous anymore. Many flowers has already gone. So these are very, what should I say, in a way very simple and not so gorgeous ones, but in this season we appreciate these kind of flowers which are left from the season. And this is the incense container, and inside of this incense container there is an incense, and the half of the year we use a piece of wood one, but the end of the rest of half years in winter and in spring we use this kind of incense, and together with burning the charcoal, I used the same incense in this, we call it raw, sunken hearts. So in the cold season, this very small one can make the room very warm. So in olden days, they didn't have any conditioner, any gas heater or electric heater. So this small one was the only one thing to make us warm. So the charcoal in it, and also hot boiling water, which were heated by the charcoal, made the room warm, and also the people can enjoy the heat from here. And that is the water container. And depending on the season and depending on the theme, the host pick up what kind of water container, what kind of straw, what kind of flower vase or incense container we chose. So this is the very wabi season. I picked up this water container from Shigaraki.
And your kimono also has a seasonal theme, the flowers,
Yeah.
the obi.
Yes. This is the moon, or you can see the back of this obi.
Aha, the half moon.
So you can see the half moon, and also wildflowers of autumn, like Suzuki kind of pampas.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to call it in English, but ominaishi.
Okay, and then there are other parts of the tea ceremony that are seasonal or that have a story, and we have them in the next room. So let's have a look.
Okay.
Okay, you have them here on a tray. Can you show us what you have?
This is a tea container for koicha, thick tea. Usually we will drink thin one. When you say tea, maybe you think of this thin one. But in a formal occasion, we drink thick tea. You will experienced it, so you can explain about that.
Yeah, it's the same tea leaf, the plant, but the way you prepare it makes the thick one very, very dense, almost like not solid, but very, very thick.
Yeah. So in olden days, tea leaves or tea itself was very precious, so we couldn't get it so easily. So people treated thick tea very important.
So the inside of the cover, the ivory cover, has gold.
Yeah.
A gold flake, gold leaf. Yeah.
Yeah, because sometimes tea rooms we are prohibited to bring their weapons like swords. They had to leave a sword outside, so they couldn't protect themselves, and also sometimes the host could put in poison in the tea leaves.
Oh.
So you have to show that you didn't put any poison. So people say that those gold layered
Gold leaf.
gold leaf will change the color if it made the poison.
Wow.
I'm not so sure. So for sure, there is gold leaf or sometimes silver leaf, but mostly gold leaf is covered. And then this is a tea container for koicha, thick tea. And maybe when Japanese got this kind of tea container, it came from outside of Japan. So this was, it is said that this tea container was used as the container of the medicine but tea people used it as a tea container, and it was very precious and important one. So they made a cover for tea container.
To protect it.
Yeah, to protect from damaging it. So they used beautiful clothes, and also there is a way to wrap it. So like this.
Oh.
So when you use it, you open it and take out the container and use it.
Okay.
Okay?
So in the tea world, there are many traditions, many styles, like Ura-senke and Omote-senke are very big, very popular, but many others as well. So what we were talking about today of these, this equipment, these utensils and so on, is that similar, do you think, or is there some difference also?
Of course, there are some differences, but the very origin of Japanese tea ceremony started from one great person, Rikyu, Senno Rikyu. So there are many small differences, and how to make tea has a little difference, but the very base of utensils or how to make tea will be very similar.
So earlier you told me that there are many rules, many important things to do, many details to observe when you're preparing and serving the tea, but also when you're receiving and drinking the tea. And after you do this many times, it becomes natural or second nature. You don't have to think about this. So you told me it makes you feel relaxed. You can just do this. You don't have to talk very much, and everybody can enjoy this together. So it's a kind of like music, kind of an art that you enjoy. But then you also told me that the same tea, the actual material of the tea, you can buy in a supermarket. Not just the fancy one, specially made, but just ordinary. You can use it in your daily life. So when people talk about making tea, that's different than a tea ceremony, because a tea ceremony takes time to prepare. Even if the leaves are the same and the flavor is the same, the atmosphere is different. It changes the experience if you have a very formal ceremony.
Yeah, of course, in daily life, for example, I serve tea to my husband, and it doesn't follow any those formal procedure, but the tea in the tea room is very different, I think. And people who don't do those tea will not experience that kind of quiet pleasure in a way. So, of course, serving tea is very casual in a daily life, and you can do that just like you are serving coffee or tea. But tea in the tea room is a little more spiritual in a way, or more influenced by Zen.
So it's not just to have a good posture and to enjoy the flavor and the nutrition and the sweets beforehand. It's also because you enjoy the company of the people, and because each of these things that you have has a story or a history or many owners before you and after you, so you feel that you are connected to these things.
Yeah.
So another time you were talking about a very, very formal occasion where there was a meal involved, as well as the sweets, as well as the tea, and there are many repetitions of the serving, taking turns. And I'm trying to remember exactly what you said. It was at the other house, your parents, your in-laws' house, and I'm trying to remember what it was that got your attention. I guess the idea that some of these things are very old. It made you think of other times, and sometimes the host will have their personality because they choose certain images. For example, here you have a tea bowl that has a rabbit, and sometimes the scroll has some words that have a pun or a kind of hint, and it makes a kind of story. And some people can quickly see what the host is expressing, and some people it's a kind of riddle, a challenge. So can you tell us an example of this, of how the host was very clever to make a kind of story?
There are many hints actually to get in before you get into the tea room, like in the entrance or outside of the place you are waiting for. The host put many hints, so the guest will guess what is the main theme, or what the host is trying to present the day. So it's a mutual, a kind of communication, even though they don't speak actually. So finally, in the tea room, sometimes the guests will know what was the real intention of the host, and sometimes it's surprising, or sometimes you can share the feeling. So it's a kind of mutual communication, and I really love that.
You called it quiet pleasure instead of like a TV or movie or a video game so noisy. This is very quiet.
Yeah. So, and also you will use your brain in a quiet place, and the host and the guest are mutually communicating together in a silent place.
What about in the future? Do you think some young people are also learning how to serve tea and receive tea?
I heard that these days very busy business people try to get the different kind of spiritual release. So many young people are attracted by tea. So in a big city, the people try to practice tea more and try to learn tea more, I heard. I think it is because they are too, what should I say, all the days they are facing the computer or machine, and they try to be more human in a way. So they are attracted by tea.
In some ways, your experience for so many years with the tea reminds me of people who are in the musical world. My mother played piano, so she could teach some young people and old people. She could play in the community theater. She could play in the church. She could play for ceremonies, weddings, and funerals. So because she had a skill, she could meet so many people, became part of so many lives. And with tea, I think you've traveled many places. You've met so many people. So do you have some story about that, about the social aspect of tea?
Do you mean in Japan or? I think tea itself is the Japanese culture itself. So if you learn tea or you are interested in tea, every place you go, you can have deeper understanding of Japanese culture. For example, in the tea room, as you saw, there is a calligraphy and also the backing of the calligraphy. They use beautiful cloth or beautiful paper, and also potteries for the container, incense container or flower vase, or those utensils, and also the lacquerware, and also the Japanese culture, like the theme of the day, like as I used today. This bowl has a drawing of a rabbit, and Japanese believe that a rabbit lives in the moon and pounding the mochi. So today's theme is the moon and the end of the autumn. So I picked up that scroll and also my hobby, and also this chawan table, like those people who are not interested in Japanese culture or those stories will not pay any attention to the scroll or to my hobby. But once you know the Japanese culture like you noticed my hobby, or you noticed this chawan, like that. So you can enjoy the life better.
Yeah, the meaning can speak to you.
Yeah.
Compared to your younger days when you were first married, or I don't know, your first time having tea ceremony, if you can even remember that young days, but many years have gone by. So do you have a different relationship with this tea ceremony or with these utensils compared to before? In other words, your life is growing, your life is changing. So does that mean also the tea ceremony has a different meaning now?
I think so. Young days, as one of the ladies said, it is a kind of a practice you have to learn before your marriage. So I also practiced tea in my high school days and also in my college days, but it was just like a kind of things I have to do. So I did that, and I enjoyed drinking tea and having sweet, but that's all. I didn't have so much interest in the utensils and the scrolls or the phrase there. And after my children has grown up, I started practicing tea one more time after many years, and gradually I was involved in tea more and more, because one of the reasons will be that I had more knowledge about Japanese culture. I knew pottery or the lacquerware more than before.
Poetry also?
Yes. So, and also a tea teacher told me about those customs or the many stories which started from China, like that made me more interested in the tea. So even now, I find many new things, and I notice, oh, maybe this will mean something different from a very small thing I do in a tea room.
Well, thank you for presenting tea to me and teaching all us about the experience you have of it. Thank you.
Sorry, it is not enough, and I'm sorry that I didn't do a good presentation, and tea people who are involved in more will find me, oh, you are not good enough, there are more things you have to say, like that. But thank you very much for interviewing me.
For a newcomer, everything is new, so it's all new information, I think, so it's all good. Thank you.
Thank you.